My name is Kelly.
And my name is Will.
We are two Florida attorneys.
Who love our 5 dogs.
And 2 cats.
And love listening to true crime.
Mainly me.
So I hope you enjoy our show as we delve into all things spooky.
This is For Crime's Sake.
So spring is almost here.
And I am so excited about that. Did you know that the official start of spring is March 20th in the United States?
It's pretty close.
It is coming on up. So anyway, we have Lacey here in the studio today. And Lacey is a Yorkie, and she is basically my little shadow, follows me everywhere. And I got her when I was in law school, and she has been my little sidekick ever since.
She tolerates me. She has grown accustomed to my presence. And I think that's the best I can ever hope for from her.
For sure, for sure. She doesn't really like anyone other than me too much.
No, pretty much just Kelly.
And we have posted a picture of Lacey to our Facebook, Instagram, and our website at forcrimesake.com.
So Kelly, what's on the docket this week?
Well, I need to catch up on some Dateline episodes.
Always important.
I'm obsessed with Keith Morrison. He is like my all-time favorite. He's hilarious.
The man himself.
He'll be like, it would be the best spring ever. Or would it be?
Except for all the murder. Keith Morrison he's pretty spectacular.
He is. What about you?
Well, I, in light of our springtime activities, am working on mulching. I have a lot of mulching to do in the backyard.
Yes, you do.
I do.
And some planting. We saw some planting too, actually.
Yeah, we gotta get some new jasmine in. Gotta get the flower beds mulched. It'll be good. It'll be nice.
Yep. Today we are discussing the murder of Johnny Altinger, and a lot of people will recognize his killer's name, Mark Twitchell, aka the Dexter Killer. And for those of you that don't know, Dexter Morgan, whom the nickname, I guess who was inspiration for these murders, was a vigilante serial killer in the show Dexter. But anyway, I didn't want this story to just be about Twitchell, who is just an absolute vile human being, but rather about the man who was needlessly and brutally taken from his friends and family.
And I think it also bears noting at the outset that the character of Dexter Morgan is so unlike this guy in almost every conceivable way. This guy was such a failure to be anything like what that character was supposed to be, which was supposed to be a killer, but a just killer and a fair guy and all this other stuff. And this guy is just a murderer and a bad one at that. So I think that's an important thing to take away. He's not the Dexter Killer, despite what we all know him as.
He was hoping to be.
It might have been what he hoped to be.
Yeah.
It's not what he ended up as.
And we so often remember the names of the killers, but the victims' names, not so much. And they deserve more than that. So I wanted this to be about Johnny Altinger and about the loss that was created by Mark Twitchell. Sources for this episode are TrueCrimeEdition.com, CBSNews.com, TheSun.com, EdmontonJournal.com, and SteveLillibuen.com. So Johnny Altinger was an oil field equipment manufacturer in Edmonton, which is a city in Alberta, Canada. He loved computers and was a self-proclaimed nerd, and he loved motorcycles.
Those are all fun things.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm scared of motorcycles personally, but I like the idea. I love computers.
Yes. He would frequently spend his weekends riding his motorcycles with his friends, And I posted a picture of Johnny with his motorcycle on our website and social media. October 10th, 2008 was a Friday night, and Johnny had plans to meet a woman he'd been talking to online. And they had met on the dating site Plenty of Fish. And fun fact, I actually know people who met on Plenty of Fish, and they dated for years.
So that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it's over now, but yeah, they met there anyway, and
pretty good to make it for years.
Yeah, I didn't really know where I was going with that, to be honest, but anyway. So Johnny was excited about meeting this woman who called herself Jen, and he had told his friends about his plans for that evening, and that was the Canadian Thanksgiving weekend. So instead of going out to dinner, the plan was for Johnny to go over to her place. Dale, who was a close friend of Johnny's, told him about his concerns of Johnny going over to a stranger's house. I mean, sure, they chatted online, but they'd never met in person before.
Yeah, that's a fair concern.
Yeah, and get this, and this is going to be even more concerning. Jen hadn't even given Johnny her address, but instead, weird cryptic directions to her house.
Oh.
Yes, it was pretty alarming.
Yeah, I don't like anything about that.
Yes. It doesn't get any better. So anyway, Johnny was really excited and really wanted to go. And Dale had seen Jen's profile picture. Her picture showed a pretty brunette on the beach in a bikini. And Johnny's friends were surprised and maybe even a bit skeptical that this woman was interested in their friend. So they actually came up with a plan, though.
Okay.
Johnny would send Dale the address when he got to Jen's house.
Okay. That's something. I mean, that's fair. That's an attempt at being safe.
Yes. And later on, Dale would get a call from Johnny. And Johnny went on to tell him that he had followed the directions and couldn't find Jen. And that he only saw a man filming a movie in a garage.
Everything about this is just so ridiculous and weird. It's
just
so alarming.
There's no Jen, but there's a man filming a movie.
Okay.
And it was weird. And Johnny decided to leave and go home. So he went home.
Good.
Yes.
Good for Johnny.
But later that night, Dale receives an email from Johnny. And Johnny says that Jen is now home.
Oh,
and he's going back over there.
Okay.
So Dale's still worried at this point and decides later on to call Johnny and make sure that everything was all right.
And Dale's the real MVP.
He
here.
is. But the phone rang and rang, then went to voicemail. So Dale goes to sleep, but decides to call Johnny again the next morning. But again, Johnny doesn't answer. And this is now Saturday.
I just want to say Dale is a good friend. Like most of my buddies, like we would not waste this amount of time looking for each other. Good for Dale.
And that is something that comes up, it shows in this story that he had really good, caring friends.
He really did.
So Dale knows that, him and Johnny have plans to ride their motorcycles on Sunday. So he's like, okay, I'm just going to meet up with him then. But unfortunately, Sunday arrives and Johnny is a no-show for their motorcycle ride.
Oh, no.
And at this point, Dale is now super concerned because this is very unlike Johnny. So Dale and a couple of their other friends drive over to Johnny's house. They ring the doorbell, but don't get any answer. They then try the door handle, but it's locked. So they head into his garage and they find his car, a red Mazda hatchback, is gone. So
okay.
No car. But his motorcycles, and he had 2 of them, are still there. But they are uncovered, which was unusual for Johnny to leave them that way for very long. So at this point, his friends are stumped.
Yeah. Because you don't know. I mean, maybe he just got in his car and went somewhere. He's an adult man. He could leave.
Yes. Or maybe him and Jen had really,
hit it off.
Hit it off, exactly. And they were spending the weekend together.
Hanging out for a long time. Yeah, that's fair.
The next day, Dale gets an email from Johnny. So yeah, Johnny's fine, right?
Great news.
Yes. But here's the email. This is how it reads. Hey there. I've met an extraordinary woman named Jen who has offered to take me on a nice long tropical vacation. We'll be staying in her winter home in Costa Rica. Phone number to follow soon. I won't be back in town until December 10th, but I will be checking my email periodically. See you around the holidays, Johnny.
Huh. Okay. So I guess ostensibly that could be from Johnny, but
It feels a little impersonal, no?
It feels real cold, and it feels like its only purpose is to say, hey,
I'm not
by
around.
the way, in case people who I don't know if you're looking for me are looking for me, here's a reason I won't be here, and here's no contact information for me.
Here's no contact information, and I'm not going to be back for a while. And yeah, hey there.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't know.
nonsense.
Yeah, so bizarre. But after reading that, Dale knows something isn't right. For one, Johnny is not a beach guy. And the email doesn't sound like it's from Johnny. So Dale decides to respond to the email with a lie to see if he could verify that Johnny wasn't, in fact, the writer. So Dale responds asking who was going to pick up Johnny's brother from the airport. But he never gets a response.
Interesting.
Because obviously, if it was Johnny, he would know his brother wasn't going to be needing to be picked up. Or if his brother did have to be picked up, who was going to pick him up?
And you would expect that it's probably time sensitive, so it's probably something you would get a quick response to, not like, oh, I forgot if my brother was needing to be picked up from the airport.
Yep.
Clever.
But he never gets a response from this. And at this point, Dale knows that this whole situation is wrong. And he contacts Edmonton police.
Seriously, just saying it again, Dale, MVP.
Unfortunately, the police don't take this too seriously. After all, Johnny is an adult man. If he wants to run away with a woman he met online, he is allowed to do that.
That's true.
Then Johnny's boss receives an email from Johnny resigning from his position. And Johnny's boss responds to this by asking where he should send his final paycheck. But he also never gets a response.
And right there, huge red flags, because who on earth is not going to say, this is where to send my money?
Exactly. And at this point, all of Johnny's friends are super concerned, beyond worry.
Good. Appropriate.
But then, all of a sudden now, Johnny is back online. I mean, he had deleted his Plenty of Fish account and changed his MSN screen name, but still, he's online and seemingly fine.
Yeah, okay.
But Johnny still wasn't answering phone calls or responding to messages. And at this point, Dale decides he has to go back to the police. He wants to report Johnny missing. But the police still don't believe there's enough evidence at this point. But they do agree to take Dale's statement. And they told Dale an officer would meet him to go over the facts. However, the officer never shows.
Oh, come on.
Yep. So at this point, Johnny's friends are desperate for answers. And they know their friend, and they know he would never do this. So they go back to his apartment, and this time they decide to break into it. They sneak through a window in the hopes of finding the evidence that the police are insisting they have. But the apartment doesn't look like Johnny left it to go on a vacation. Uncovered food is found in the kitchen, dirty dishes in the sink, his luggage, toiletries, and passport are all still there.
Okay, so we can safely say Johnny did not gather up his things and go
for
on vacation.
For a tropical vacation, yeah, without his passport and all of his belongings.
Yeah, right. Good luck.
Yes. So Dale calls police again. And this is the third time at this point.
That's so frustrating.
And a week after Johnny disappeared, the police finally take a missing persons report. So police finally begin their search at this point. They do. And they contact Johnny's friends and colleagues. They search for his car at long stay lots around the airport. And they actually also call customs.
Okay. It's a week late, but
yeah.
Okay.
But they quickly realize that no one has spoken to or seen Johnny since October 10th. That Friday night, he was supposed to be meeting up with Jen. So police follow the encrypted directions that Jen gave Johnny, and they also arrive at a garage.
Okay.
But nothing looks unusual. It's just a garage with rolling doors. And I posted a picture of it to our website so you guys can see it, and our social media, and you guys can check it out. But it's just a regular garage. And they look into the garage a little bit more, and they find out that it's being leased to a man named Mark Twitchell. And Twitchell is an aspiring film director. And he's been using the garage as a movie set. And remember that Johnny had mentioned a guy in a garage filming a movie when he was talking to Dale on the phone.
So it seems pretty safe to assume that this is where he ended up.
And that Mark Twitchell was, in fact, the man filming, possibly.
Yeah, it seems rational.
So police call Twitchell up, and he seemed super cooperative right from the start. He said he didn't know Johnny and hadn't seen him that night. So they asked Mark Twitchell if he would come down to the garage so that they could look inside. And he agrees. So Twitchell shows up. And when they walk around the back of the garage, Twitchell notices that his padlock is broken and there's another lock on the door that isn't his. Weird, right? Is that bizarre? So weird. Anyway, when police enter the garage, they are immediately hit by the odor of something having been burned there.
Ooh.
I know, that's not it.
Yeah.
In the middle of the room, there was a large stainless steel table with a receipt on top of it. And the receipt shows that several cleaning items, such as paper towels, bleach, gloves, and plastic sheets, were purchased.
Okay.
It's upsetting. It's an upsetting scene for sure.
Yeah.
But Twitchell was a director and was making horror movies. So it seems like at this point, police accept this to some degree.
I don't know that I agree with that decision, but okay, they did.
So they ask him to come down to the station to give a statement, which Twitchell agrees to. So they bring Mark Twitchell on down, and he is a talker, a chatty Cathy, if you will. He tells the police all about his career, his family. He has a wife and an 8-month-old daughter, and how he has made Star Wars fan fiction films. He goes into everything.
What does any of that have to do with anything?
He likes to talk.
He just wants to talk.
Yeah.
Okay.
So investigators at this point still don't consider Twitchell a suspect. Even though Johnny just happened to disappear from the area where a horror movie was being filmed. And get this, the movie that Twitchell had just finished was called House of Cards. And the movie was about a killer who lured in the bad guys by posing online as a beautiful woman. And when they met her for a date, they would be confronted by a serial killer. And this killer would take their money and then torture them for bank information and eventually kill them.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure I know what happened here. I mean, that's insane.
No, and that was his movie. Okay. So, and in House of Cards, this killer even got away with his crimes by pretending to be his victims online in order to trick their friends and family.
Come on. He's literally exactly what he did.
Oh,
come on.
So now, luckily, after police learn this, they request a warrant to search the garage. But the judge denies their request for lack of evidence of a crime.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't understand this. Come on.
So at this point, police ask Twitchell if they can look around the garage again. Well, and of course he agrees.
Well, sure. Why not?
And this time he also has quite a story to share.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Twitchell tells them that some of his belongings had been stolen from his car. And then when he was sitting in a car park, a stranger had knocked on the window and asked if he wanted to buy a red Mazda hatchback. And this man told him he wouldn't need it because he was going with a woman on a holiday. So Twitchell, of course, at this point, bought the car for a steal, a whopping $40 cash.
Oh,
of
my.
course, right?
I mean, come on. That's complete madness. Who on earth comes up with a story like that and believes that anyone is going to take that seriously?
Oh, I know. So again, police ask him to come on down to the station to write a statement about this car incident and the break-in. And of course, good guy Mark Twitchell agrees.
Of course.
And boy, does he give a statement. He writes a whopping 8-page essay about the incident. He also mentions that he feels like someone burned something in his garden.
He feels like it?
He has a feeling, he has an inkling.
Wow. Okay. That's some weird senses he's got. I'd like to know more about that.
At this point, police luckily no longer believe Twitchell and know he is involved with Johnny's disappearance.
Okay. Thankfully, there is some redemption here, and that stopped this.
Old Twitchell.
They caught on to the charade. Oh no!
But if you think Mark Twitchell is going that easy, you would be wrong. He denies any involvement. Police don't have enough to hold him in custody at this point, so they seize his car, the house, and track him for 24 hours. When police search his home, they find tons of science fiction memorabilia, tons of books on forensic science, serial killers, and a book on Costa Rica, which is, where Jen and Johnny were supposed to be traveling to. Police also find a black hockey mask with gold stripes, and it looked as though blood was on it. And we had posted a picture of the mask as well. So Twitchell's car had a bunch of sticky notes all on it, over it. Like actual sticky notes, just with notes on it.
That's upsetting.
Yeah, I mean,
that's not healthy.
Yeah. No, nothing about this
No,
guy is
yeah,
healthy.
that's fair. He's wow.
But one of the sticky notes reads, "Kill room, clean sweep." Yep.
Did he just leave a note for himself to clean up?
Oh, he had to remember.
To clean up the kill room?
They also found a bag in the car with a knife, and it was a military knife with blood on it.
Oh, sure.
And in the trunk, another knife was found. And this one was a steak knife, which also had blood on it.
Sure.
They also found a laptop in the trunk. And this is a doozy. It included a file on it called SK Confessions. And this next part, it's nuts. It's like a 42-page document. And in it, Twitchell wrote all about the murder. And I mean all about it. From his in-depth planning of it, to how he carried it out, to how he dismembered the body for disposal, and his attempts to dispose of the remains, and the way he eventually dumped the remains of Johnny Altinger in a North Edmonton sewer.
I mean, real nice of him to wrap this up all clean and nice in a bow for us. What a psycho.
No, it's so sad. It just breaks my heart for Johnny's
it's horrible.
Friends and family.
It's horrible. And they tried to help. Yeah.
And the document even begins with, "This story is based on true events. The names and events were altered slightly to protect the guilty. This is the story of my progression into becoming a serial killer."
Oh, goodness. Just, it's just, you can't.
Yeah,
I mean, you can't make this stuff up. This is crazy.
The document also mentions that this was not, in fact, Twitchell's first attempt.
Oh.
Yep, this wasn't even his first time, the first time he had planned on killing someone. It was soon discovered that Mark Twitchell had attempted the same thing with another man, Gilles Tetrault, a week earlier. It's like about a week. But yeah,
Wow.
it's really close in time. And Gilles met Sheena online. Similarly to how he lured Johnny, Twitchell arranged for Gilles to meet Sheena at the garage.
So it's the same exact crime.
Yes, but Gilles fought back and a fight ensued when he was attacked in the garage. And Gilles managed to escape from it.
Good for him.
Yep.
Good for him. Wow.
Unfortunately, Gilles was so embarrassed and afraid that he didn't report this to police. But when he saw the same black hockey mask with the gold stripe painted on it, he came forward.
So it was actually like the identical crime.
Yes.
This was just
It looks
his
like
first shot at.
it didn't pan out and he tried it again.
Wow.
And it's hard not to wonder that, what would have happened had he come forward, if that would have changed anything, and whether Johnny would have died.
Yeah, but it's also a tough thing. That's scary. And I mean, what if you believe that he is capable of finding you if you report that? Wow, that's sad.
Absolutely. Twitchell also discusses his family and an affair he was having with his ex-girlfriend in SK Confessions. He changes their names, but not very well. For example, his ex's name was Tracy with an I, and he changed her name to Lacey with an I.
Wow.
His wife's name was Jess, and he changed it to Tess.
Look out for this guy.
Yes. So police are jazzed because they have a literal confession to the crime. So open and shut, right?
Yeah, all day long.
Well, Twitchell isn't going to go down without a fight. So Twitchell wants a trial. So he's going to get that trial.
Of course.
Now, he admitted to killing Johnny, but claimed it was in self-defense. Twitchell told the court that Johnny was enraged when he realized he was not, in fact, meeting a woman, and that Johnny then attacked him with a pipe. And Johnny was only stabbed because Twitchell was just merely trying to protect himself.
So interesting, except for the part where he wrote down the whole thing about how he did this.
Oh, but his reason was that was just a work of fiction.
Well, naturally.
Because sure.
Except that it's exactly like reality.
He also did admit to dismembering Johnny's body, too. He admitted to that. So he was, it's just gross. He's horrible. But the Crown called 46 witnesses to the stand to prove that this was, in fact, real.
So, and I would think they'd be able to do that.
Yes. So in SK Confessions, which, if you're wondering what it stands for, it looks like it means serial killer confessions.
I was going to guess serial killer.
Yes. Twitchell mentions being pulled over by police and getting a speeding ticket days after the murder. So the Crown called the cop who pulled him over and had written him a ticket.
That's fantastic.
It was great. Twitchell had also written another document, and it was called A Profile of a Psychopath. And it is believed to have been basically a detailed self-analysis of Twitchell's personality and behavior.
I mean, it's just every turn this gets more and more insane and ridiculous.
He's such a narcissist, too.
Huge narcissist.
So one part of this read, I habitually lied my entire life. Despite my incredibly well-adjusted and healthy family life and upbringing, it never stopped. I always apologized, but never meant it and never corrected the behavior.
This guy, narcissist is the perfect word. He thinks he is so great.
Oh, he does. But it wasn't allowed into evidence during the trial. During the trial, Twitchell's fascination with the character Dexter Morgan was routinely noted. And this is how he became known as
the Dexter Killer.
Yep. And Twitchell even looks a bit like Michael Hall, the actor that plays Dexter.
Which is really, really disappointing for Michael Hall.
Well, no, Mark Twitchell's the off-brand version.
He's like the B-roll Michael Hall.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, that's good. Better for him.
I have posted a picture of Mark Twitchell to our website and social media. The Crown also focused on good old forensic evidence. So Twitchell had a wild game processing kit. And Johnny's blood was found on 7 different knives in the kit.
Well, sure it was.
Twitchell's excuse was that it was just a prop kit.
That was covered in a dead person's DNA?
Well, he had to use it probably after he was attacked, right? In self-defense, whatever he was claiming. It's
this
absurd.
Guy.
Yeah. But of course, the jury didn't buy it.
Thankfully.
Yeah, because it's absurd.
Yeah, it's absolute nonsense.
And on April 12th, 2011, Twitchell was convicted of the first-degree murder of Johnny Altinger.
Good.
The jury deliberated for about 5 hours. Homicide detective Bill Clark said, "We caught him on his first one." So he's a very poor serial killer. And thankfully, he will never become a serial killer.
Yeah,
right? That
fantastic.
Sums it up. Justice Terry Clarkson sentenced Mark Twitchell to life in prison without the possibility for parole for 25 years. And unfortunately, 2027 is the 25th year.
Oh.
I know it's coming up way too soon.
That's way too soon.
The world is definitely not a safer place with Mark Twitchell walking around. So let's not let him out.
Yes, I think we can probably all agree. And I'm just going to go ahead and cheer on in 2027 parole board. Don't let him out.
Absolutely. And if you are wondering, the Crown originally filed charges against Twitchell for the attempted murder of Gilles Tetriot, but they dropped the charges after he was sentenced for the murder of Johnny.
And that makes sense. We see that a lot of times in the justice system.
Yes, originally the Crown had wanted to have the murder of Johnny and the attempted murder of Gilles tried together, but the judge ruled against it. Under Canadian law, charges can only be tried together if they are strongly linked and part of the same transaction. Like for example, in the United States, to try multiple crimes at the same time, they must have been born of the same nucleus of operative fact.
So very similar in function to Canadian law, it seems, that we generally just can't try people for things that are too attenuated in time or in fact. It has to be, well, if it was going on right now, for example, if Twitchell had tried to kill his first victim at the same time as killing his actual victim, then that would have been appropriate to try together under U.S. law and probably under Canadian law.
Yes.
Okay.
So Justice Clarkson wasn't persuaded by the Crown's argument that the attack on Gilles and the murder of Johnny was part of the same transaction, right? He ordered 2 separate trials. So after the conviction, the Crown didn't pursue the attempted murder charge at that point.
And that just, again, kind of makes sense. We see that in the U.S. too. It's if you have a conviction for one thing, sometimes it's just as good or, smarter to not go after the next thing.
Gary Altinger, Johnny's brother, said that the murder of his brother has made it difficult to comfort his children when they wake up in the middle of the night afraid of monsters. He said of this, "It's impossible to be honest with them, living with the reality that monsters do live among us." Mark Twitchell is definitely a monster.
He is a moron.
Yes,
but an absolute monster, and that is almost more dangerous.
Yep.
Because a monster that doesn't know what he's even doing with himself is a monster that can hurt a lot of people.
He is terrible, and I'm very hopeful that he will not be released onto parole in 2027. So how do you feel like Lacey did?
She did really well. She's pretty well behaved.
She is pretty well behaved, especially when she's sitting on my lap. Like she's good.
Yeah, she doesn't like the other dogs being around her that much, but when it's one-on-one, especially the two of you, things go well.
And that is a theme you'll hear. They really like our dogs really like their solo time.
They really do. The Chug is the only one who likes the others being around, but they're all upset when he's around.
It's tough.
It is.
Anyway, guys, check out the pictures from this episode and pictures of Lacey on our social media and our website at forcrimesake.com.
Make sure to drop us a nice review, like, subscribe, 5 stars wherever you listen. We really appreciate that.
And I hope you guys have a good week, and we'll talk to you next week.